After my daughter was born far too early, I did what anyone desperate and scared would do. I grabbed my phone and sent a message to the family group chat. Just a short plea, we're in the NICU. Please, pray. My hands were shaking when I hit send, waiting for that flood of love and support I thought was guaranteed, but the first notification wasn't prayers.it, wasn't even words.it, was my aunt. 3 photos popped up, her toes buried in Hawaiian sand, a pina colada balanced in her hand, and a glowing sunset stamped with #BestViewEver. That was it. No, how's the baby? No, are you okay? Just a highlight reel of her vacation. And the worst part? Nobody else followed up either. Not a single soul. A month later, I was still basically living at the hospital. I had a corner table in the cafeteria that felt like mine, same spot, same bitter coffee, same ache in my chest. That's where I was when it happened. I picked up my phone and the screen lit up, 84 missed calls. My brother's name over and over. And one text sitting at the bottom of the stack, answer. This is bad. I'll come back to that. But first, let me tell you about the day that carried me through every lonely night there. 5 days after my daughter came into this world, a nurse leaned down and whispered the words I'd been craving, "You can touch her now." My heart nearly stopped. For 5 endless days, I had sat behind glass, watching her tiny chest rise and fall in rhythm with the machines. She weighed just 2 pounds, 4 ounces. Her skin was so translucent I could trace the map of her veins with my eyes. No book, no class, no doctor could ever prepare you for that. People think childbirth ends with tears of joy, a baby placed in your arms, a flood of family photos, congratulations buzzing your phone. For me? It was alarms shrieking, tubes hissing, and me sitting in silence, holding my breath so I wouldn't disrupt the fragile rhythm keeping my baby alive. And I was alone. Not figuratively. Literally. Alone. No parents rushing in. No siblings offering to sit beside me. Nobody. At first, I made excuses for them. Maybe they were waiting for the right time. Maybe they thought I needed space. Maybe they were on their way. But deep down, I knew better. I had typed it plainly, we're in the NICU. Please pray. Simple. Honest. Desperate. I stared at the screen after I hit send, ready for my phone to light up with love. Instead, I got Hawaii. I wanted to scream. To hurl my phone across the room. But I couldn't. My daughter needed me steady. If she was fighting to breathe, then my job was to be the anchor holding everything in place. She didn't need my breakdown. She needed my strength. And what gutted me the most? Realizing this wasn't some one-off mistake. My brother, who I once drove 5 hours to rescue after a breakup left him stranded, didn't even ask how we were. My cousin Liz, who had sobbed on my couch for weeks after losing her job, who let me cover her rent not once, not twice, but multiple times, stayed silent. Even Aunt Brenda's daughter, who had lived under my roof for an entire semester, finding herself, never checked in. Days turned into weeks. The hospital became my world. My husband was across the country in Oregon, tied up in a work contract that came with steep penalties if he broke it. He called constantly, but he carried this heavy guilt in his voice. I lied through my teeth, told him I was fine, that I was managing. But the truth? I wasn't. I was eating cafeteria food, showering in the family center, pulling clean clothes out of the same duffel bag, and spending every hour staring through glass at my baby girl. Her name was Riley. Beautiful, fragile Riley. And the cruelest part? No one even bothered to ask what we named her. On day 31, I sat in that same cafeteria corner, nursing a cup of cold coffee I didn't even want. I scrolled through the photos the nurses had helped me take of Riley. She was still so small, still covered in wires, but her cheeks were fuller now, her spirit shining through. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't in weeks, hope. And then it happened. My phone lit up. 84 missed calls. My stomach dropped. My hands froze mid-scroll. I hadn't even heard it ring. Just a glowing screen, pulsing at me like a warning. Most of the calls were from my brother. The last message, "This is bad." And right there, something in me shifted. For once, I didn't panic. I didn't break down. I calmly set my coffee aside, inhaled deeply, and called him back. Because if there was finally a family emergency, well, they were about to learn what being abandoned really felt like. The call connected before the phone even finished ringing. My brother's voice slammed into my ear, breathless, strained, like he'd been sprinting. I could hear tires, a car door thunk, someone shouting something muffled in the background. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask about Riley. He barreled straight into it. "Dad collapsed in the driveway," he said, voice cracking. "An hour ago. No warning, just went down while pulling the trash cans back after pickup. Neighbor saw it, called 911, did CPR. They wheeled him into emergency, they're operating now. Brain bleed. We don't know if he's going to make it." For a beat I didn't breathe. The hospital cafeteria at noon blurred into one gray smear outside the window, cars, people, the same cracked sidewalk I crossed every morning. I asked who had been with him when it happened, because of course my mind wanted someone there to tell me he was okay. "Mom's here. Brenda, cousins, Liz even made it," my brother said. Like that was supposed to fix everything. Of course they could be there when the keepers of drama and crisis were needed, when it was urgent, visible, the kind of thing that made for hospital chairs and sympathetic Facebook posts. Of course they could show up for the spectacle. Then he said the line I'd been waiting for, the one that would make everything feel normal again. "You need to come. Mom's falling apart. We need you." How quickly we became everyone but me. I had to force the words out, steady and precise. "I've been here 31 days, I said. My baby was 2 pounds when she was born. I'm here every day. I'm the one keeping her stable. I'm not leaving." My voice sounded small in the noisy cafeteria, and somehow that made me furious. He stammered, "Busy, Brenda just back from Hawaii, they thought I didn't want visitors, they wanted to spare me." Spare me? Was silence a kindness now? I almost laughed, because if anyone needed sparing it wasn't me, it was the silence itself. Nobody asked if I needed anything. Nobody asked how long my coffee had gone cold while I waited at a glass box watching my child fight. I didn't yell. There was no melodrama, no grand speech. I simply said, "I'm not leaving Riley. Not for this." I really did wish Dad well. I hoped, genuinely, that they could keep him safe without me, but I meant every quiet syllable when I said they would have to manage this one on their own. Then I hung up. My brother called again within seconds. I let it ring out and go to voicemail. The messages started pouring in, texts at first, a tumble of words that slid across the screen, please, guilt-laced lines, fingers typed apologies, a few angry demands. Some texts begged. Some tried to guilt-trip. Some rambled like they were trying to fill the silence with excuses. I sat there and watched them stack up, then, one by one, I deleted them. Swipe. Delete. Swipe. Delete. It felt almost ceremonial. This wasn't the hot, flaring anger I'd expected. It wasn't the sting of betrayal I'd felt when Aunt Brenda posted palm trees instead of prayers. It was colder than that, a clean, hard certainty settling into my chest. For years I'd been the family's duct tape, fixer, lender, shoulder, babysitter, bail bonder, the person who showed up when everything fell apart. I picked up calls at 2 in the morning, lent money when rent vanished, drove across states to help someone out of a breakup that probably could have helped themselves around the block. And yet when my daughter's lungs trembled behind plexiglass, when alarms became my lullaby, when every hour was measured by a beep and a monitor, they left me to do it alone. I slid the phone into my pocket, switched the ringer to silent, and walked up the fluorescent-lit corridor that always smelled faintly of antiseptic and microwave dinners. The nurse on duty nodded as I passed. She'd become one of the anchors in this place. In Riley's isolette she looked impossibly small, arms splayed like a sleeping bird. Her chest rose and fell in those tiny, perfect increments. For the first time in days her heart trace looked steadier. The CPAP had come off a little while ago. The nurse said we might try bottle feed soon. I crouched and let the weight of the world lift into one focus, her. The hum of the machine softened. I could feel the warmth of the incubator on my fingertips, the faint, sweet hospital scent of baby lotion and sterilized cotton. I breathed in her, then exhaled out every person who hadn't shown up. A strange calm settled over me, less like resignation and more like a choice being made. It wasn't charity or spite that guided me. It was clarity. I had been the family's safety net for so long I forgot what it felt like to be a single human with one responsibility that mattered above all the rest. I pressed my forehead to the glass and whispered her name, Riley, like a promise. I promised to be there. To fight whatever came next. To be the one person who wouldn't walk away. They could call, cry, beg, scream into voicemail, none of it would change that. I was done being everyone's fallback. I was no longer willing to show up for every drama while my own daughter lay in a box of wires. I was her mother first. I had made that decision, and with it came a strange, terrifying silence. What would they do when I stopped catching them? As I stood there, the fluorescent lights buzzing above and Riley's tiny hand curled near her cheek, my phone buzzed again in my pocket. I felt it, small, insistent, like a second heartbeat. I didn't reach for it right away. Because whatever came through that screen next, my answer had already been given. But in the quiet between one ring and the next, I realized, this choice wasn't the end. It was the start of something none of us could have predicted. The next 2 days felt like sinking to the bottom of a pool, everything heavy, muffled, muted. My phone, once buzzing nonstop with missed calls and desperate texts, went eerily silent. No ringing. No pings. Nothing. Not about Dad. Not about Mom. Not about me. It was almost impressive, honestly, how quickly they could vanish the second I didn't fold myself into their crisis. Like someone flipped a switch and cut the wires. And I didn't chase them. I didn't text to ask if Dad had made it through surgery. Didn't check if Mom was holding up. I stayed right where I had been for 31 straight days, in the NICU. I sat beside Riley, listening to the constant chorus of beeps and hums, watching her tiny chest move beneath a nest of blankets and wires. I gave them a chance to show me they meant something. To reach out, to ask about her, to ask about me. But nobody did. Instead, I watched Riley gain 4 ounces. That was what mattered. We were finally easing her off the oxygen. Her eyes stayed open longer now, wide and curious. She even wrapped her whole hand around my pinky one afternoon, her grip small but fierce. And every time she fought, I felt myself grow stronger too. She was my anchor now. Then, 2.5 days later, Brenda showed up. Not that I heard it from her, one of the nurses mentioned it offhand. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted. She just strolled in like she was making a pit stop, sunglasses still perched on her head, a glossy shopping bag dangling from her wrist. Inside? A box of overpriced cookies. She handed them to the nurse with a smile, didn't even ask where I was or how Riley was doing, and left. That was her grand gesture. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. My brother again. So, you're just cutting everyone off now after everything we've done for you? I stared at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. And all I could think about were the countless hours I had poured into his life. Helping him rewrite his resume when he was unemployed. Covering the loan for his car repairs. Paying part of his tuition. Delivering groceries when his wife was sick. And never once did I make him feel small for needing it. Never once did I throw it back in his face. So I finally texted back. You left me alone when my daughter was fighting to live. I'm just doing what you taught me. Then I blocked him. And something inside me snapped into place, like a lock turning. That night, after Riley drifted into sleep, I pulled out my laptop. I logged into the tuition account I had been funding for my nephew, an account I had set up, managed, maintained. One click, and the automatic payments were gone. Card unlinked. Account empty. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a warning. Let the invoices roll in. Let the school call him. Next, I opened another app. For months, I had been quietly sending Liz money for rent. She never directly asked, just dropped hints about being behind, about how stressful it all was. And I stepped in like I always did. Not anymore. I canceled it. Simple as that. The next morning, Liz messaged me. Hey, did the payment not go through? Just checking, rent's due soon. I read it once, locked my phone, and never answered. 2 hours later, Brenda sent me a picture of a vase of flowers with the caption, thinking of you and the baby yellow heart son. I deleted it before finishing the sentence. By evening, 3 different unknown numbers had called me. Likely cousins, the ones who hadn't bothered to check in for months, now suddenly remembering I existed. I didn't pick up. I already knew exactly what they wanted. Because here's the truth, when people realize the person they've leaned on has finally stepped away, they don't stop to reflect. They scramble. They gossip. They twist the story into something that makes them feel better. They don't panic because they miss you. They panic because they miss the version of you that never said no. The version of you that picked up the pieces every single time. But that version of me? She disappeared the day I sat in that NICU, staring at my phone, and saw my aunt's beach photos instead of a single message saying, "We're here. We've got you." They made their choice that day. All I did was finally follow their lead, and now, while they spun themselves in circles, I turned my full focus to what really mattered, Riley. She was breathing on her own more and more, those little lungs fighting like champions. She'd gained another 2 ounces, which in her world was monumental. The nurse let me cradle her against my chest for a full hour that day, and I swear I could feel the steady rhythm of her heartbeat syncing with mine. For the first time in weeks, the crushing weight I'd been carrying, their weight, started sliding off, piece by piece. The hospital, once a place that made me ache just walking through the doors, was slowly becoming familiar. I knew which vending machine always swallowed your dollar, which nurse played old jazz on night shifts, which ones gave me the updates without sugarcoating the hard parts. Riley was growing fast, gripping my finger with surprising strength, her eyes holding mine longer each day. The doctors even started using the word release. A few weeks, they said. There were still hurdles ahead, but for the first time, there was a rhythm to life. A rhythm that didn't include my family at all. Then my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made me pause. My grandfather. It wasn't a heart emoji. Not a chain text prayer. Just 5 words, "Call me tonight." Alone. I hadn't spoken to him in months. He wasn't the type to get dragged into the family's endless squabbles. Old school. Reserved. But when he spoke, people listened. Always had. That night, after Riley finally drifted off to sleep, I stepped outside to a bench near the ER entrance and dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. No pleasantries. No small talk. He said he knew everything. He knew no one had come to visit, that Brenda was sipping piña coladas in Hawaii, that my brother was now playing victim in the family chat, whining that I had turned cold. He'd seen the messages. I didn't ask how. I didn't care. Then he told me something I never expected to hear. He was rewriting his will. He didn't ease into it, didn't soften the blow. He just said it plain as day. He was sick of watching everyone circle him like vultures, pretending to care, clawing at inheritance they hadn't earned, while giving nothing back. He said he'd tolerated it for years. But the way they treated me, and Riley, this was the line in the sand. He'd already met with his attorney, already signed papers. The house, the Vermont property, the investments, everything. All of it was going to Riley. Not to me, to her. Because, he said, she was the only innocent one left in the family. The only one who deserved a clean start. I sat there beneath the yellow streetlight, stunned silent, my breath fogging in the cool night air. I told him I didn't expect anything. That none of what I'd done, none of what I endured, was for money. He said he knew that. That was exactly why it was going to her. And then, like he could hear the words forming in my mind, he said, "They think you need them. But you've been the one holding this family together. The second you stopped carrying them, they collapsed." We didn't say much after that. Just a quiet goodbye. The next morning, my phone lit up like fireworks. Chaos in the group chat. Screenshots flying around. A blurry picture of a legal document. Cousins asking if it was a joke. Brenda typing in all caps. My brother firing off strings of question marks. Not a single word about Riley. Not one. It was all money. Property. Who said what? Who poisoned Granddad against them? Apparently, he'd called a family meeting at his house without explaining why. They all showed up, probably expecting him to announce some early inheritance or downsizing. Instead, he handed out folders with the new will inside, stood up, and left the room. No explanations. No debate. Just final. Brenda was livid. Liz sent some half-sweet, half-bitter comment about family tradition. My brother tried FaceTiming me twice. I ignored both calls. Instead, I sat in the NICU chair with Riley curled against me, her little head resting on my chest. Her heart monitor beeped slow and steady. I could feel the warmth of her skin through her blanket. The weight of her was finally becoming real in my arms, not fragile, not abstract. Real. And that's when it hit me. The real burden I had been carrying wasn't financial. It wasn't about inheritance. It was the quiet, bone-deep exhaustion of being the one who always showed up when no one else did. The one who gave while everyone else took. But now, that weight had shifted. They thought this was about money. They thought I had manipulated him, that I had turned him against them. They still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge. This was simply the cost of their choices. And the thing was, it wasn't over yet. Because I hadn't even told them about the second part. The part 1 was planning next. I waited 3 full days before I said a single word. Let the messages pile up like trash no one wanted to take out. Let their panic steep until it turned sour. My brother fired off another dozen texts, some red-hot with anger, others dressed up in fake calm like he was the reasonable one here. Brenda switched tactics, sending me a syrupy voice memo about how family needs to stick together, especially for Riley's sake. And Liz? She sent a gem. Can we talk, just us girls? I actually laughed out loud at that one. This from the same cousin who couldn't even text when I was sitting alone in a NICU, praying my premature baby would keep breathing. But while they were busy bickering over a will and spinning themselves in circles, I was quietly working on something much bigger. Riley was getting stronger every day, eating more, gripping my finger with that iron baby fist, fighting in ways my family never could. I'd been meeting with the hospital's social worker in the evenings, quietly gathering paperwork, double-checking details. Because I wasn't just leaving the hospital soon. I was leaving everything. Not across town. Across the country. My husband had just been offered a permanent position in Colorado. And as if the universe was finally throwing me a lifeline, a flexible part-time role opened up for me at the children's hospital there, complete with a relocation package and, most important of all, a spot for Riley in their NICU follow-up program. Specialists who already knew how to handle babies like her. A clean slate, far away from the people who'd proven what they were. I told no one but my husband and one nurse, the same nurse who had held my hand that first awful night. No one else deserved to know. 2 days before our flight, I finally broke my silence in the group chat. Not with an essay, not with some dramatic speech. Just one photo. Riley asleep in a brand new onesie, strapped safely in her car seat. And behind her? 2 suitcases. Packed. Zipped. Ready. Brenda responded first, "Where are you going?" Liz followed with, "Wait, what is this? Are you moving?" And then my brother chimed in, last as always, "You're seriously doing this? After everything. After everything." As if I was the one who vanished. As if I had abandoned them. As if I had left them in a hospital bed to fight alone. I didn't respond. The next morning, Riley was officially discharged. We packed up the hospital room, walked out those doors, and never looked back. Just me, my husband, and our daughter. I held her the entire flight, feeling her soft breath against my chest, and I didn't cry once. That night, in a hotel room near our new apartment, my husband scrolled through the barrage of family messages. He looked at me and asked if I wanted to block them. I shook my head. "Not yet," I said. Because I wanted them to see exactly what life looked like without me holding everything together. And they did. Over the next few weeks, I started posting just a handful of quiet photos on social media. Riley napping in her new crib. Her first checkup at the new hospital. A video of her smiling at the ceiling fan like it was her personal galaxy. The comments rolled in, not from them, no. From strangers, friends, people who actually cared. My family? Silent. Watching from the shadows. I could see it, the profile views, the quiet clicks. Silent witnesses to a story they no longer had a role in. Then, out of nowhere, a letter arrived. Handwritten. My grandfather's looping script across the envelope. He told me he was proud of me. That he hadn't told the others yet, but he'd already made another change. The trust was being divided early, not just in the will. Riley's portion would be moved into an education fund, untouchable, unshareable, locked tight for her future. "They took your kindness for granted," he wrote. "Now they'll see what happens when that kindness goes somewhere else." I read that letter twice, my hands trembling, my chest tight. Then I folded it carefully and slipped it into Riley's baby box, right beside the photo of her in that NICU incubator. A reminder. A record. Proof of what she survived, and of the choice I finally made, to stop carrying everyone else, and to carry only her. The family didn't collapse all at once. It was quieter than that, slower, like watching cracks spread across glass until it finally gives way. Liz posted about struggling with rent. Brenda dropped hints about maybe selling her condo. My brother's kid was pulled out of school halfway through the semester. I didn't clap. I didn't cheer. I didn't even respond. Because the truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. At first, they tried to circle back gently. A few likes on old Instagram photos. Vague comments under Riley's updates. Just enough to test the waters. I let the silence answer for me. But about 6 weeks after we'd moved, Liz cracked first. She sent me a long email, 5 paragraphs of wordy tap dancing around the one word she couldn't type, sorry. She wrote about how hard things had been, how no one really knew how serious it was. She said she'd been thinking about Riley and hoped someday we could reconnect as a family. And then she added, I'd love to get to know her. I think she deserves to know her roots. Roots. She didn't mean family history. She meant access. Proximity. A chance to circle Riley the same way they circled my grandfather. I closed the laptop without replying. A week later, a box showed up on my doorstep. No return address, but the handwriting on the card was unmistakable. Brenda. Inside were baby clothes, all the wrong size, and a teddy bear with a gold ribbon, faintly perfumed. The card read, "For my little princess, with love from your great Aunt Brenda. Let's let the past go." I set the bear back in the box, sealed it shut, and slid it into the back of the hallway closet. And then, my brother. He didn't write, didn't call. He showed up. The doorbell camera pinged while I was scrubbing bottles in the kitchen. There he was, standing on the porch, hands jammed into his jacket pockets, staring at the door like he couldn't believe it was real. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it. But something in me wanted to hear what he'd say to my face. I opened the door. He looked worn, tired, not sick, just emptied out. He cleared his throat. "I was passing through," he said. We both knew that was a lie. I let the silence stretch. Then he added, "I just wanted to see you." I waited. Finally, he said the words he came to say. "We miss you." I let them hang there like smoke. Then I told him, "You don't miss me. You miss the version of me that paid your bills, picked up your pieces, and kept everything from falling apart." He didn't argue. Didn't deny it. Just dropped his eyes to the porch boards. Then, softer, "Mom's been asking about you. She's confused. Thinks this is all just a misunderstanding." I asked him, was she confused when Riley was in the NICU and no one came? Silence. He didn't answer. His lips pressed together like there was more he wanted to say, maybe to beg, maybe to lash out. But he didn't. He just nodded once, turned, and walked back down the steps. I closed the door and locked it behind him. That night, I sat in the nursery with Riley asleep against my chest. Her tiny breaths rising and falling in rhythm with mine, the soft glow of her nightlight painting the room gold. And for the first time in months, I felt it, peace. They could try every angle, guilt, nostalgia, fake warmth. But it didn't matter anymore, because I had finally learned the truth. Love isn't proven in the explosions, in the emergencies, when the spotlight is on. It's proven in the quiet days after, when there's no drama left to perform and no audience left to impress. It's in who shows up when no one's watching, and who disappears when you need them most. My family showed me exactly who they were when they didn't show up at all. So I stopped waiting for them. I started building a new circle. Neighbors who carried groceries up the stairs without being asked. Friends who dropped off soup just because. My husband's coworker's wife, who handed me gently worn baby clothes that actually fit Riley. Strangers with no obligation somehow showing more love than blood ever did. Months passed. Riley grew round-cheeked, her laugh bubbling up with ease. Doctors said she was thriving. And she was. One morning, I woke to a voicemail from my grandfather. His voice was gravelly but calm. "They still don't get it," he said. "But that's not your burden anymore." That same week, we rented a small cabin in the mountains. Left our phones in a drawer. I held Riley bundled against my chest as the sun rose over snow-dusted peaks. The air was crisp, the world quiet. And in that stillness, I realized something that sealed everything inside me. They will always want back in. They will always test the boundary. But I will always remember that silence in the NICU, the silence that wasn't filled by strangers, but by the absence of those who should have been there. And I will never forget what it taught me. Not every family deserves a second chance. Some just deserve a closed door.